Good morning and welcome to Visionary Aging. I'm Mary Winters, your host and the owner of About Senior Solutions. I'm a gerontologist, and what that means is I study aging. Specifically, we have care management services where we advocate and create plans for individuals, mostly seniors, some disabled adults. But the reason we put this program together is that it takes a village. We want to make sure that you have all the resources you have at your fingertips, whether we work personally with you or not, so that you can create the best life ever. And we have a really neat guest with us today. Jake Peachauer is with us, and he is with a company that does virtual reality with seniors. Actually, they're using it a little bit with children, it sounds like, too. He'll talk a little bit about his research and all the great things that they are doing in regards to staving isolation with seniors. And I thought, how do you do that with virtual reality? But you're going to be really surprised. This company is Rendever, and you're going to find out more about how they're interacting, and specifically that we're going to share some of their calendaring and what they're doing all over the country. I think actually in Canada too. So we're going to find out more about that. We have Steve McCullough on with us today. As usual, he has a great caregiver question. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into his segment. Let me see if I can find his little intro here. So here we go. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
Great. Yeah, we have a fun show, a fun guest, and we have a question from what I understand.
We do have a question. Comes from one of our viewers. They want to know, they're worried about their mom not being hydrated enough. They want to know what they could do to ensure that she's drinking enough water, she's properly hydrated.
You know, it's a simple question and kind of a complicated answer. But a couple things I can think of to respond. Sometimes what we do is we take small bottles, large bottles, whatever size, like the big case of water, and we date them. So if you think that your parent should be drinking a certain amount, or your doctor has said make sure that she's drinking a certain amount, there also, you could talk with Melinda too. There's a way to look at your body weight against how much water you should be drinking in ounces. But we like to label it sometimes. It's not a guarantee, but we like to label them. And that way, if we're getting through, 6 little mini bottles or whatever that might be, they're also the large bottles, containers. I have one of my clients has this Gyrus bottle, and it has halfway, midday, has little markers on it. She does a very good job with her water, and but it's a little difficult sometimes. Maybe it needs to be flavored, adding a little lemon, or some people like to kind of not stew, but just kind of leave some mint or a cucumber, something like that in their water to make it a little more interesting or palatable. And another thing, this is a little private, and I don't know if you're near your mom, but you can always our bodies tell us a lot from what we void. So if you're able to see that her urine is not too dark, that is a good indicator. In fact, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. It might sound a little offish, but your urine should look like Chardonnay. So if it's much darker than that, you need to hydrate. If it's foggy, you need to hydrate. So just a little tip, and it shouldn't be clear. That means you could be lacking in your electrolytes. Maybe you're overhydrating. That doesn't happen very often, but it does. So just a little something to kind of keep in mind.
Good tips.
Yeah. So, but it's a tough one. And that's my goal too. Every year is to drink enough. I think pretty much we're all run on dehydrated level pretty much. So
it's hard sometimes.
Yeah. So we have a really neat guest.
I know. I'm excited.
Yeah. They'll have to go on to the Rendever.com website too, because they have all these really cool demos and really interesting things. But Jake's on with us, and so I'm going to bring him on, and then why don't you come on later and you could talk about your day in sports.
Sounds
Oh, we'll
good.
also talk about the perk and what's on the perk today.
Perfect. Have a great show.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, we have a really neat guest. So Jake is going to come on with us and talk a little bit about the programming that he has with Rendever, the company that he's with. And I think you're going to find that it's very interesting. Hey, Jake, how are you?
Hey, thanks, Mary. I'm
Yeah.
amazing. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for coming on and share a little bit about the company Rendever and what you do. And like I said, at first I was looking at how do you use artificial intelligence, they're not artificial, virtual reality to stave loneliness. And you really worked through a great answer. The company really worked through a great solution for that. So share that with us.
Man, well, where do I start? We do typically, not typically, but when we started 7 years ago, not that we were laughed at, but people took a double take and were like, no way that works. Even still today, there are people that would never assume a virtual reality headset could work so well with older adults. And so 7 years ago, what we did was we went into a senior living community and we just figured out or tried to see if it would work. Do seniors enjoy virtual reality? What we saw, the reactions that we saw were so incredible that we knew that we had something for a business model and something for this market. So shout out to our engineers, which makes our job so much easier in customer support and sales to highlight all of the great work that they've done. But the staple of our company is that we network our headsets together. So that our mission since day one is to combat social isolation for older adults by using the power of shared experiences using virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shared experience is because those headsets are networked together. So picture this, everyone. In a senior living community, you can have 4 to 10 residents seated in your movie theater room, any activity room, all having VR headsets, traveling the world together, swimming with dolphins together, going back to each other's childhood homes together to reminisce. So
how do you do that? You look something up on Google and find the house that way, or how do you?
So the ease of use is incredibly important as well. We had to make a very simple technology. Everything is driven through a tablet controller. So the activity staff professional has a tablet, and that is what controls all of the headsets at the same exact time. What's even better, the staff member on the tablet, they see everything that the residents are seeing. So when one resident looks to the left, they pan the tablet to the left and say, Miss Betty, what are you looking at over there? So you're with your residents every step of the way.
Interesting. Oh, that's really fascinating. Yeah, so I did see a little bit of the demo where somebody did have, so that's something you train the staff at the communities to use. Yeah, that's really interesting. And it must be really interesting too when COVID hit. You already had a little up as far as the time that you had before COVID working with people, but tell me a little bit about how that really potentially enhanced people's lives during COVID too.
I'll say 2 things, and they're, during and post-COVID. I'll start with post-COVID. It's interesting to hear how many communities come to us and share, wow, we wish we had this during COVID.
Yeah.
They see how the ability to bring your residents and interact with the entire outside world, it was not possible during COVID. So now let's flip back to during COVID. When we saw our usage slip a little bit because residents couldn't convene in common areas, we had to do something. So again, our incredible engineers put together a program called Rendever Live. Rendever Live, and I think we shared a calendar with you if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
This calendar and Rendever Live is the daily live programming element that we have. So our teammates, our Rendever Live experts, we are the ones that lead sessions for communities. So you can tune in at any of those times and we lead the session for you. So what that does, it augments the staff time, gives them a little bit of a breather, or they don't have to be personally responsible for the session. They can also enjoy it with the residents. And the last piece, we also have a way where we can run physically distanced sessions. So what happened was during COVID, a lot of communities would bring their residents to the edge of their doors and run hallway sessions because as long as the headsets are on Wi-Fi, technically and theoretically, you could have a headset on the assisted living side one on the memory care side, go all the way back to your office, click one button, and go through a session with two residents who aren't even in the same room together, but they're still communicating and with each other every step of the way.
Oh, that could be so fascinating for someone who is not able to ambulate too. And you can have that set up. Now it doesn't matter in regards to COVID, but how fabulous. And so is that something that that with a live version, is that something in maybe two different communities you can do at the same time, or is that?
Ooh, you brought up a great point. So every community that joins,
Mhm.
we're all together. It's a community. So I have to share this quick story. We have
Yeah.
a community session every Wednesday. There is a group, oddly, in California, and one up in Canada. And
Uh-huh.
they compete with each other every single week. So we're always looking forward to, that competitive banter between two different communities, two different operator groups in different countries. And yet there's still a community building element where the residents come, they want to compete against Canada.
It's an Olympics, a mini Olympics.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's almost like gaming too, with the kids being able to compete against whoever or wherever, anywhere in the world. So that's what a neat connection and ability to communicate in a different way and really create some mindfulness with your engagement then too.
Absolutely.
Really interesting. So share a little bit more about your company.
So we have so many different use cases. Where we started in senior living, and that is who we predominantly serve. Everything that we develop is geared towards older adults, making sure it's comfortable, exhilarating for them, engaging, encapsulating their attention. So this is going to maybe surprise some people, but this is the beauty of virtual reality as a tool to bring older adults everywhere around the world, that our use cases are so wide. We're in hospital systems. UC Health is one of our biggest partners in Denver, Colorado. Different hospice organizations, and the entire spectrum within senior living, from memory care to independent and everything in between. We've found that residents, they enjoy interacting with the outside world. And the best part, and we know this, they have by far the best memories. They have the best stories. And for a tool to be able to tap into almost every one of those stories on any given day, it's just such a powerful tool to be able to give residents.
It's true. That's so interesting. You're using it with hospice too. Is that an individual experience or using that as a group experience? That's really fascinating.
So, yeah. A hospice organization would get a slightly smaller package, so it's not 4 to 10 residents all having fun. What this is really geared for is the caregiver or nurse, whoever's working with the older adult in hospice. They can also have a headset. So it's really meant for the caregiver or the nurse relationship with that person. It's also great for families. So for family visits, this is the big point that's really cool. There's some conversations that families would like to still have, or maybe memories that they want to, tie a knot over or relive together while mom, might be close to the end of life. So what we've actually found is, to the families, it's so powerful to go through those last experiences and maybe have some conversations that, are hard to bring up organically, but
Sure.
Hey, mom, let's go back to our old neighborhood. And then through that conversations, they go where they need to.
Sure. No, that's really great. And I think with hospice too, we have so many situations where they're kind of unsettled business. And so maybe bringing them back to a home setting or a country where they were from, or creating a kind of soothing scenario would be very interesting and really supportive, I think too. So really fascinating. Tell us.
You brought up a quick story. I have to get this. You almost segued me into this perfect story. So I worked in the community before working for Rendever, and this might be common in all communities. It might not be, but there was a resident who packed their bags every Friday because they thought that their daughter was coming to pick them up and go home every Friday.
Sure. I had somebody like that at 2:00 every single day.
Yep, the daughter's coming, and it's the redirection, and it's difficult, and it can be a distraction to other residents. So, not having the right redirect tools, and that's ultimately how I found Rendever, to bring a solution back to my community, but not about me. This is about a resident that wanted to go back to her hometown in Ohio. And that's where she was always going back to every Friday. So long story short, when I got the job with Rendever, I said, I need to help her go back home. We helped her go back home for 45 minutes. We traveled throughout her old neighborhoods, went to the restaurants, the corner stores that she enjoyed. When we followed up with the community, this resident was not packing her bags anymore on Fridays. So
Yep.
what it was able to fill a void and make her tap into what she was longing for. And, the power in that is surprising to me, but that's just is what we do every day.
That's fantastic. And it is useful and helpful. I find when people do have meaningful activity, they're connected more to other residents. They feel like they can sit at the same table with them and enjoy conversation. They're not seeking to leave. It's so important to have these connections. And I can only imagine how calm this woman must have felt afterwards, feeling like she'd just been through her neighborhood and experienced something that was so special and important to her if she was trying to leave every day to do that. So kudos to you for thinking of that. I think that's the other thing too. People have to think outside of the box to really create an experience potentially, especially for a one-on-one situation. But what a great tool in regards to being able to really support a reduction of anxiety. And that's very stressful for an older adult who's seeking to find where they need to be. And that's great work. Tell us a little bit more about even you have two co-founders. It sounds like maybe they have a background in virtual reality, but how did they kind of come into this space?
Yeah, so two co-founders, shout out to them. Tom, he is probably one of the best virtual reality engineers in the entire world. And so he's been a longtime developer. And so his history, he's an expert developer, always has been, always will be. He's the expert engineer to create our Street View integration. That's how we're able to go all over the world. Flip side to our CEO, Kyle Rand. He studied cognitive decline in college and has a background in biomedical engineering and neuroscience. So you can imagine what that combination would do. Yeah. And it alludes itself perfectly to being the leader of our organization and leading us to our goal every single day.
That's fantastic. What else is there in the future? Or what are the other things that you think are important to share?
Well, we have every story, every anecdotal piece of evidence that you could want that says this works. But we know you need research, right? And that's really what can set something up forever into the future. In fact, last year, the virtual reality headset was submitted as a medical device. Now that's massive. That's really big for the future. But we are currently right now in the middle of a phase 2 clinical trial. That's, watch this, we are connecting older adults with cognitive impairment with their adult children who live cities or states away. So we're measuring how well they communicate, what their engagement looks like against normal conversation, whether it's a phone call, a video call. And what we found, without sharing too much, it's just incredible. So what we're building for in the future is, as many families to have VR headsets as possible and to be able to click one button and say, hey, grandma, how's it going? How's your day going? And I live on the East Coast. She's in California. But that's what we're building towards, bringing families closer together. As you said, those important connections within senior living communities. And that's also a point that we haven't shared. The staffs get to know the residents much quicker, much earlier. And how important is that for conversation points and the relationship building for staff and residents too?
Well, it's trust too. It's being when you have those connections quicker, you're building trust faster too. So that's also very interesting. Tell us about some of the partners. You talked a little bit about University of Colorado and some of the other organizations. I think AARP is working with you, and some of the other big.
Yeah, they've been a longtime partner. We developed a consumer application that, oddly enough, anyone could go on the MetaQuest store right now. It's a free application. We did recently acquire that back in-house to us, so we're really excited about that. But we also, UC Health, we're in their infusion clinics, burn units, dialysis units, outpatient cancer, infusion clinics, and it's that element of distraction. And
Yes.
like I was telling you before, what would all of you rather? To be in a hospital staring at the ceiling for 2 hours while you're being, treated on or worked on, or let's walk through Italy, swim with dolphins, and before long, time's up, your treatment's done. So whoever stays in hospitals for a long period of time, it can really help them, pass the time and have a great experience. We talked about hospice partners, the entire senior living, spectrum, but we are a part of a bunch of major operator groups. As I was doing research before this in California, so we're just lucky to have such important partners behind us on this mission every day.
That's fantastic. Well deserved too. Fantastic work. Tell us, you said you had been able to pull that, I don't know, portion of your business or back. Share again what that connection is or what that free app is that people can download.
That would be Alcove. So you could go to alcovevr.com. I think it routes back to our website.
Okay.
But a lot of what is on Alcove is, oddly enough, what is our platform for senior living communities. There is a little bit of overlap with the experiences that we provide, but that's available to everyone. If you have a VR headset right now, go download Alcove. Can't recommend it enough to start reminiscing with your own family, do experiences and bucket list items that you never thought were possible. It's so cool where this tool is headed.
Very interesting. Thank you for that information. And if people try to get a hold of you for more information, they should get a hold of you at
Jake at Rendever. I think it's scrolling down
at
the bottom.
But just in case they're only listening, make sure that you give the whole email address.
All right. That's Jake at Rendever. Jake at Rendever is spelled REND as in dog, EVER.com. Quick reason why we're called Rendever. We render experiences forever, and we cut out a few of the unimportant middle letters. So Rendever.
That's great. I figured there was some connection of two words, and that's fabulous. I appreciate it. And Jake, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Mary.
We'd love to experience some of what you're doing, and maybe we'll start using some of your service with our own clients too. So, well, actually, we will. You'll have to show us. You'll have to do a demo with us. Okay.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. All right. That is wonderful. I really appreciate that information and how we actually put what seems to be something very isolative with virtual reality on your head, and you're kind of just sitting there. They've developed such a fantastic program to put people together, which is so important. We have a really interesting birthday. We have a gentleman who they call the Energizer Bunny because he's 100 years old and he's still trying to get on people's roofs. So hold on just a second. We're going to celebrate his birthday. So we have this wonderful gentleman here. His name is Albert Jenko. He's in Michigan. Out of the Warren, Michigan paper, they say that he's nicknamed the Energizer Bunny because he has been he's been a Warren resident for 67 years, but he has been dubbed the Citizen of the Month and the Energizer Bunny because at 100 years old, he still cuts his own grass and has been doing the same thing for all of his neighbors or some of his neighbors. And up to a couple of years ago, he was also taking care of their snow shoveling when needed. And even more, he was putting up Christmas lights. So his son-in-laws came over and said, we'll help you. We don't want you doing this by yourself. 100 years old and doing that. And so they kind of keep him off the ladder, but at the same time, it sounds like he could if he wanted to. And he is a fabulous man. He has 3 daughters and a loving wife. His wife is still living too, which is fantastic. He's a World War II veteran, and he just keeps going. He's an I'm sure I'm always messing up that word, but it's Energizer Bunny. He's an ever running bunny. But everybody needs an Al. Everybody needs somebody like Al in their neighborhood. Happy birthday, Al. I hope you have a fantastic birthday. And many, many more. It sounds like you will have many, many more. So congratulations. I'm going to bring Steve back on with us, and we're going to talk a little bit about this day in sports, and maybe we'll even talk a little bit about what's in Shape Up today too. So
Good morning.
What do we have in our history today?
Oh, today, it's interesting how certain times of the year you see certain things pop up this day in history, right? It's different sports. So this Sunday is the Daytona 500, which is arguably the most famous auto race of the season.
Yeah.
And in 2020, Denny Hamlin won his second straight Daytona 500. He's won 3 overall, but he won his second straight Daytona 500 on this day in 2020. So if you're an auto race fan, you know that this Sunday is a big day in auto racing. So it's I don't know if you've ever been to an auto race. I was at the Long Beach Grand Prix. We used to do that years ago, and it's a lot of fun. It's a different crowd.
It is fun. It is fun. It is a different crowd, and it's a lot of zoom, 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 zoom. Yeah. Pretty loud, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. They lap those cars around and kind of get your car that you want to, get in position and get around. It's a little bit not really like horse racing. They go around a track, but
right.
It's so interesting. You're like, how are they going to cut around? I mean, that's kind of the same that expertise that a jockey has getting around. But a lot
of my relatives back east in the Midwest love auto racing, and they know the drivers. Like I would know a lot of sports athletes, like basketball players, football players. They know drivers like that. They know their history. They know who they drive for and what races they won.
Oh, sure,
what they're good at, what tracks they're good at, what tracks they're not good at. And so I think it's a huge following, big part of America.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many experts in that. Let's look at the perk today. What do we have for the perk? It's Random Acts of Kindness Day. And our pun today is, I held the door for a mine the other day. I thought it was a nice gesture. But also it looks like they started production on the V-Dub. Such a popular car still, right?
Very cool.
Yeah. So, I hope you have fun with that. And then we also have Practice Kindness. We have our great word search. So if you want to have the perk daily sent to you, we will forward that to you in an email, and you can reach out to us at info@aboutseniorsolutions.com, and we'll get that out to you for free. We'll also, if you have questions for Steve, do the same. Send your questions to info@aboutseniorsolutions.com to Steve, and Stephen will make sure that those get out to us on the air. So let's see. We also have our guest still with us. I think Jake is still with us, and maybe we could just go ahead and we'll say a farewell and take off for the weekend. Jake, thanks so much for your information. It was really, really wonderful. And I know you're not acquainted with the social engagement program that we have with Shape Up, but it hits so many of the targets on our programming that just kudos. Just great, brilliant minds working on good things for people. It's really, really great to know you and to introduce your program, Rendever. So thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you, Mary. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So
great.
Any great plans?
I was going to say, I loved your presentation and loved what you're doing. And it's definitely going to change, a lot of people's lives for the better. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah. For all ages, really. Like you said, I mean, I can't even imagine being in the hospital, sitting there for days and days and days, and being able to create an experience for yourself. Your mind can only think about one thing at a time, and if it's pleasurable and wonderful, why not, right? It's great.
Exactly.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great weekend. And we'll go ahead and kick it off with our little extra. All right. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mary. Great show.
Thanks.